Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the East China School District Candidates Night for 2016. My name is Paul Dingeman. We are here in the boardroom of the East China School District, and we have 5 candidates who are vying for 2 positions on the East China School Board. We're very fortunate to have such qualified people come up and volunteer their time, and we are excited tonight to meet them, greet them, and throw a number of questions at them that have been developed by the committee and by interested parties in the East China School District. We first want to start by taking a look at a ballot. This is an official ballot that happens to be from St. Clair Township, but pretty much all of them in the East China School District are pretty much the same, exactly the same. On the front of the ballot is the presidential and the state offices and the state boards and the state school, those kinds of things, and then the county offices. The important thing for you as a viewer to do and as a member of the East China School District is to turn it over to the backside, because on the backside is your local township or local city events, local judges, and then at the top here there's the community college trustees. Then we get into the people who we're going to meet tonight, the East China School Board candidates. They are in this section on the back. And then finally, on the bottom of the ballot is a very important proposal for the East China School District. It's the East China School District Operating Millage Proposal, and hopefully you have studied it and you will vote to support that for the East China School District. This program that you are seeing will be aired approximately about 42 times between now and Election Day on November the 8th on CTV Channel 6. It'll also be on our webpage, which is www.watchctv.org. Program on the channels in Marine City and in St. Clair will air at 2, 6, and 10 a.m. and p.m. on Thursday and Friday for the next 3 weeks, and then on the Monday before the election. So that's what I've got lined up here. Before we start, I also want to say one final thing, that we're so fortunate to have these 5 people interested in supporting the East China School District. We're only going to fill 2 seats. So we want to remind you that there is an election in 2019. We're going to have another election in 18. In the fall of 2018 to fill vacancies for 2019. So there'll be 3 seats available at that time. So hopefully only 2 of you can win, but hopefully the rest of you will think and consider about coming back and running for additional offices. We're glad that you're here. Let's begin the evening with the first question as soon as I find it here. And the first question goes to Lynn Alexander. Before we start that, let's go down the row with Lynn and then down the row, and give me a minute about yourself and who you are.
My name is Lynn Griefor, and I have lived in the East China School District for about 8 years. I currently serve as the director of the McLaren Port Huron Foundation, and prior to that, for about 7.5 years, I was the vice president of the Community Foundation of St. Clair County. I am married, and I have 2 children and 3 stepchildren that are in the district. My children attend St. Clair schools, and my husband is a graduate of Marine City Schools, and so I have a lot of stake in the game for this district, and I'm really excited to be here.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to thank you, Paul, for having us, for putting us on, and Colleen for hosting, and fellow candidates for showing up. My name is Michael Mullane. I was born and raised in St. Clair. I've lived in this district for basically my entire life. I graduated from St. Clair High School in 2001. After graduating, I went to U of M Dearborn, got a degree in political science, and for the past 4 years, I've been working in Lansing, mainly on education policy. I also put some time in on budgets, so I get to work on the K-12 budget. But I decided to run for this seat because I wanted to take some of that knowledge and experience that I've gained over the past 4 years, put it to work here in our community where I think I can be a useful voice on the board.
Okay, next.
First, I want to say thank you, Paul, and thank you, Colleen, for hosting this event tonight. Hi, everyone. My name is Allison Gabler. I'm a lifelong resident of East China, along with my husband, Chris Gabler, as well. We are both graduates of Marine City High School, myself in 1995 and my husband in 1992. I currently have 2 children in the district, Colin, who attends who attends Bell River and is in the 4th grade, and Alexandra, who is in the 1st grade, who also attends Bell River this year. I do have a vested stake when it comes to the education of our children in the East China School District. I look forward to serving this board and hope that I'll have your vote and your support on November 8th. And thanks again.
Larry?
Good evening. My name is Larry Finazzo. I'm a recent resident of St. Clair, moved here 4 years ago. I've raised 6 children. I have 11 3/4 grandchildren, and I served 8 years on the Lakeshore Schools Board of Education down in St. Clair Shores. So I have participated as a board member. So I do think I have some interesting things to bring to the conversation when it comes to discussing things like budgets and funding and education policy. I've done it before. I'm not sure that I'm as polished as I need to be since I haven't done it for 20 years, but I'd like to try to give it my best shot and try to help the schools establish adequate funding, which is what we're talking about, the millage renewal for the non-homestead millage, but also for the regular millages and whatever else we need to do. That's why I'm running for the school board.
Alicia?
Thank you to Paul and Colleen for putting this on tonight. I think it's important that the voters have a chance to learn more about each of the candidates for school board. My name's Alicia Young, and I grew up in St. Clair County, and my husband and I built our house in East China School District about 10 years ago. We have a 5th and a 3rd grader at Palms Elementary. I've been an active volunteer there. This is my 3rd year as their president of the PTO, and I was secretary of the PTO for 2 years before that. I'm a member of the East China Educational Foundation, and we do community events to raise grant money for the teachers and ultimately the classrooms. And I previously served on the District Restructuring Committee. Professionally, I graduated from Michigan State in 2001 with my bachelor's degree in accounting, and I'm a CPA. And I think a good school district, a strong school district, is critical to the community. Besides the students, it benefits the local economy, it attracts new residents, and it increases your home value. And hopefully I can be part of making a difference in the community.
Okay, great. Let's begin with the questions now. And I've told the candidates before we started that we're going to limit them to about 60 seconds in their answers so that we can get through as many questions as possible this evening. First question is directed to Lynn. What qualities do you possess that would be of value to our district?
I think I bring experience. I have 20 years of experience in leading nonprofit boards and community organizations. I have experience developing and managing multi-million-dollar budgets that were developed in partnership with volunteer boards. I have a strong history of community involvement. I'm the past president of the St. Clair Rotary Club. I've been on the advisory board of the Blue Water College Access Network for the last 8 years. And I've worked very closely with both the Marine City Scholarship Fund and the East China Educational Foundation. One of the highlights of my professional career was working with the Lemire family, who ultimately left a $2 million bequest to the district, which is currently providing scholarships to both Marine City and St. Clair students. I have a master's degree in administration, and I really want to bring my professional experience together with the other very important role to me, which is that of mom and stepmom to students in this district, to serve as an effective leader.
Thank you. Mike? Can we repeat the question?
No, I think I haven't. First of all, like I said, I was born and raised here. I've lived here for nearly 30 years. So I think I know and understand the district. Second of all, I think my experience makes me a unique voice. Having spent the last 4 years working on education policy, I understand how what happens at the state affects our local district and what we need to do to not only meet the changing mandates coming down from the state, but also what we can do to take from other districts, best practices and such, to make East China to continue to be a great school district and a leader in St. Clair County.
Okay, very good. Next.
I have a career in the financial industry. I've
Could
been
you
in the financial
put that
market-
microphone up a little bit?
Oh,
So.
I apologize. I have a career in the financial industry. I've been in the industry for about 15 years. So my career includes policy development, maintaining large budgets, and reinforcement of company growth and initiatives. With this, I think this would be an asset to our school board as far as we are with our budget concern right now. Also, I'm a highly motivated and exceptionally loyal person, and that's why I've remained in the district for this long, to raise my children and to have them graduate from the East China School District.
Thank you. Larry, you want me to repeat the question?
Well, I think I can do
Okay.
it without that. Thank you. As a self-employed business person for the last 41 years, the last 30-some-odd years as the owner of Shamrock Cab Company, I really know how things work out there in the business world. I may not have an advanced degree, but I've been in the trenches all my life, meeting a payroll every week, and I know what it means to do that. I know how important it is for the people that work for me and for the people we serve in the community where my business is located. I think I can bring those skills to the board, and I think it could help the school district advance the policies that we have in place already.
Okay, very good. Alicia?
I'm a CPA with 15 years of tax and accounting experience. I've prepared budgets, reviewed financial statements, and done financial forecasting. Coupled with my time on the district restructuring committee, I think I have a strong understanding of the financial situation that the district faces, and I think this would be an asset. I have 2 young children in the district, so I'm personally invested in the long-term success of the schools. And I was recently endorsed by the East China Educational Foundation, which is the teachers in our district, and they mentioned my passion for the district and thought that I would be a strong advocate for the students.
Okay, now I just want you to all rest. There'll be no questions tonight about Aleppo. If that, right, make sure, rest a little bit. Let's go to question number 2 and start with Mike. What do you believe is the primary responsibility of the school board?
So the school board, first of all, needs to lead. Regardless of the issue, if you're sitting up here, you need to carry yourself in a certain manner. You need to show the district that you're willing to do what it takes to make sure that we can be successful going forward. In addition to that, the school board needs to work with the superintendent, currently Dr. Skalka, to ensure that the policies that we're enacting work for all students. Regardless of zip code, regardless of where the kid goes to school, the school board needs to be here for every student.
Very good.
I believe the board sets the policy and the superintendent carries out the policy. Drawing upon our community, the board describes the shared vision and establishes goals, all while continuously to work to make our district the best out there.
Okay. Larry?
Well, first and foremost, the school board needs to lead the community. We led our community where I lived before in passing several millages to help save the school district, basically. We worked really hard door to door to let the folks in the district know why we needed the money, why it was important, what we were going to do with it. These are the things the school district, the school board members need to do in the local community to make sure that the folks out there know what's happening. And I worked real hard at that for 8 years. So I think I can lend that experience to this district. That's why I'm running.
Great. Alicia?
I believe the school board needs to work as a team that's united and make wise financial decisions, focus on what's best for all students in the district, no matter what zip code you live in. Act as a liaison to communicate between the staff and the community, and set goals for the district and hold them accountable.
Okay. Let's get our next question to,
We skipped Lynn.
Lynn.
did I miss one?
Lynn.
Oh, my friend down there, Lynn Alexander, how about you? The same question, why do you believe I'm trying to hurry the evening along, believe is a primary responsibility of the school board?
Well, first and foremost, I think the school board looks out for the best interest of our students. I think strong school boards, when facing decisions, gather input from our community and ideally, in most situations and with most issues, present a united front. I feel like the school board needs to work together to, present leadership. I think they need to be accountable, transparent, and I think a school board's role is to make sure that students are receiving the best quality education for the tax dollars that are spent.
Okay, thank you. Allison, now, the third question. What are your immediate goals for the district?
One of my immediate goals would be to continue to strengthen the communication between the superintendent, the school board, and our community. For example, the superintendent executive administrative team could hold informal focus groups as a way to solicit community feedback on how we can improve school improvement initiatives.
Okay, Larry, same question. What's your immediate
What-
goals for the
what
district?
she said, I agree with her.
All right, very good. That's a quick answer. Allison, or Alicia, go ahead.
My first goal is just to collaborate with the board to ensure that all students in the district have the best education possible, academics, arts, and athletics, and that the staff and schools have the resources to achieve that goal. My second goal is just to use my professional experience to make wise financial decisions for the district. And my third goal is to start working with the board to present it as a united front, acting in the best interest of the entire community. We are all one district, and we need to rally together and start working as a team. From my experience as a PTO board member and educational foundation member, I have a history of following through, building trust, and acting decisively.
Okay. Lynn, same question.
Sure. I think we need to develop strategic goals with buy-in from the community. There is work to be done to position ourselves for a new bond proposal, which I feel is vital to the current and future health of our community. We need to communicate to our community what our schools need and make sure that we develop a plan that they support.
And Michael, the final answer on this one. What are your immediate goals for the district?
So of course, the first goal is to continue to provide an excellent education to students in East China. But as far as policy goes, the first thing I would propose, if I were lucky enough to be on the board, is mandatory training for all board members. When you look at the school district, you have professional development for all of the professionals that work in the district, educators, administrators, but the non-professionals that sit up here that may not have a background in education, that may just be a dedicated member of the community, does not always know what is expected of a board member. I think it's essential that that training occurs every single year for every single board member.
Okay. Allison,
I started with the question.
you started with that question. Well, let's go to question number 4, and we'll start with Larry. Do you have any specific cost-cutting ideas for the budget?
Well, having not been a part of the development of the budget, I really can't offer any ideas into what I think we should be cutting.
Okay.
I'm not sure that that's even appropriate at this time.
Okay.
I'm not sure is our funding going to fall short? Well, maybe if the millage doesn't pass, the renewal of the non-homestead millage, that would be an issue. But at this point in time, it would be real difficult for me to make an informed decision on what to cut. There's no way I could make a good comment on that.
Okay.
So, but
Yes.
I did cut a lot of budgets when I was on Lakeshore Public Schools, much to the detriment of the school district, and we worked really hard to turn that around. When I got on the board, we were cutting things left and right, and when I left there, we had just passed a $50 million bond issue to rebuild our schools in the district. So, it takes time and it's a lot of work, but it can be done.
Okay. Alicia?
Gearing is the most expensive elementary school to operate. They have an electric heating system rather than gas. So I would be interested to see what the cost would be to convert from electrical to gas, if there's a benefit to that, or if it's just too costly. The biggest financial issues, though, that the district faces are declining enrollment and lack of proper funding from the state. We continue to have more students graduating than there are enrolling in kindergarten, and that's everywhere in Michigan. It's not just our district alone. So long-term, to really save on operational and administrative costs, big picture, I would like to build one consolidated high school. You could move the middle schools into the existing high schools, and then the elementary schools to move into the middle schools. It would not disrupt any kids who are currently in high school and tear them away from that. This would be a long-term plan. It takes several years. It would probably start impacting elementary kids and kids who aren't even in school yet. But long-term, that's how you start saving operational and administrative costs.
Okay, Lynn, the question to you is, do you have any specific cost-cutting ideas for the budget?
Sure. I really think the focus should be on running an efficient, well-managed, and innovative district. And the goal should be to look for ways to grow by offering the very best educational option for students and families in this area.
Mr. Blaine?
So it's difficult when you're towards the end of this because we do have 5 good candidates and some good ideas. But to piggyback on what some of the others have said, I do tend to agree with Larry. It's hard it's hard as a candidate who does not have complete knowledge of the current budget to say what should and should not be cut. And I also agree with Alicia. It's a difficult time right now because of declining enrollment. Over the past decade, we've lost over 20% of our students here in East China. In addition to that, the foundation allowance in 2010-11 for this district was close to $8,000 per child. The new foundation allowance this year is $7,823. So while we've been kind of digging out of that hole slowly, we are still $141 per child behind what we were, back in 2010, 2011. So we do have to look at the budget. We have to look at places we can pare down, places where we could save. I do think that there's some merit to a few ideas. I have been, since I was in high school, a strong supporter of going back to an area conference for athletics that would reduce some transportation costs. It's just not, I don't believe in our best interest to be driving students, to far off schools to play sports. I do also think that we could look at more of a college model for some of the less popular classes that we offer. Now, I don't want to say that I want to pare back on what we offer because students are all different. They all want to take different courses. They all have different goals moving forward. But maybe taking some of the courses that are not used as often or as heavily populated and putting them on an alternative schedule would save some money.
Allison?
My idea would be, instead of cutting the budget, but rather finding additional ways to save money. For example, a review of our fixed costs, looking at what those are, and maybe we can eliminate some costs with that. One thing I find with my company that we had a huge cost savings was we lease all our copy machines. And so anytime there's an issue with it or repair, they come out, it's free of cost. So that could be something the district could look at to see what the cost is every time we buy a new machine compared to leasing the machines. So it'd be an easy cost-effective way to bring money back to the budget, and it would have minimal impact. Another thing we could look at is our waste management company. Look at the contract with that. Is there a way that maybe we could have fewer pickups for our school's garbage compared to what we have now? So it would be money saved, and it would have minimal impact to our district overall.
Okay. I believe the next question goes to Alicia, and the question is, we have recently failed to pass a bond issue. What is the one thing that you would suggest to ensure success in another attempt?
Overall, I do think the community values education and realizes that there are building updates that are needed and that technology is important. I think the major reason that the bond failed was just a lack of unity and community trust in the board. We had one board member who was actively campaigning against the bond, and then we had other board members who I know did support it, and then some who weren't as vocal. I think when you're asking for that much money, we really needed a united front and people to rally together and get out there in the community. And I also think it was important to communicate to voters what the major expenses were. I know something that kept coming up was the bond expenses that were going to be allocated to central office. People thought it was going to be a palace. I think it would have been really beneficial to just lay out, this is what the costs are, this is why we need them, and just explain it more to the community. And I think closing Eddy and then reversing that decision, just flip-flopping back and forth, I think a lot of voters just didn't have confidence then in the board's decisions.
Lynn?
I really think that we need to have a community conversation in which we are gathering input from the taxpayers on what they feel is important, as well as giving them the ideas for what we would like to see for our schools. I agree with Alicia very much that the lack of unity amongst the board caused some mistrust in the community, and I think it's a board's role to show that leadership. You know, I feel like I understand the connection between a strong school district and a strong community. I understand that strong schools prepare our students, they increase our property values, and they position us for future growth. But it's our job as a board to articulate that message back to the voters. And we need to have a loud and strong and unified voice to do that.
Mr. Mullane?
Yeah, I agree with Lynn. Being unified is extremely important. Having one message coming from this board is important to the community so they understand what we need. But also, I believe that a bond, it's difficult in these times to get people to raise their own taxes. That's just the honest truth. So it's going to take a campaign. We have to dedicate resources to taking this to the people, explaining to them what we need in a clear and concise manner, answering questions, and really involving people in the decision-making process so that they are comfortable with where their tax dollars are being spent.
Okay, Allison?
One thing I could suggest, along with everything everybody else said, which was absolutely great, but is we focus on the yes voters and making sure they're getting to the polls to vote. And then we need to invest in time in the voters that are on the fence, that don't necessarily understand what the bond entails and whether they not should pass it. I think the more that we have open communication around the bond, what the breakdown is and what it really means to our district, more in layman's terms instead of a larger proportion, I think our community will understand it better, and it will be really vital for us to pass the bond overall.
Larry, that same question. We've recently failed to pass a bond issue. What is one suggestion that you might make to make another attempt?
Well, more than one suggestion, but certainly everyone's idea up here agrees with mine. The board should work together. That's of paramount importance. That's what I've done before when I was board president. That's what we did. We passed a $50 million bond issue by doing that. We also work with the administrators, we work with community groups, and we all worked very hard to get that bond issue passed. That's the best way to do it, but I do not believe closing schools is going to help to pass the bond issue. We did close schools in Lakeshore District, and it ripped the heart out of the local communities, those school communities, and it turned a lot of people who may have been yes voters or fence sitters into no voters because they were mad because we closed their local school. So the best thing I can think is if we're going to pass the millage, we got to find a way to keep our buildings. I understand that Detroit Edison's going to invest a lot of money in our community that may bring jobs, it may bring more residents, it may bring more kids. The subdivision where I live, when I moved in 4 years ago, had no children within 4 or 5 houses of my house. Now there's a half a dozen, and there's probably more going to be moving in there. So I'm thinking we're going to end up having increased enrollment eventually, especially with the investment in our community by such a big company.
We're about halfway through the questions, and let's go back to start with Lynn Griefor. This question is, do you have any specific ideas about the preservation or reduction of current school buildings?
So my daughter was a 4th grader at Eddy Elementary when the announcement to close the school was made and then subsequently rescinded. So I do understand firsthand how difficult those decisions can be on students, families, and teachers. However, I feel like if the board reviews all of the facts, and I believe these decisions should be made on facts and not emotion, If they review the facts, they explore the options, and they feel like the closure of a building is in the best interest of the education of our students, and there's a plan moving forward, then people won't feel the sense of unease that they may have with the Eddy situation. I think a lot of the unease came with, we don't know what's going to happen next. So I think, again, that's the board leadership and really making sure that all the facts are looked at and there's a good, solid plan that we articulate to the current and former students so they understand what's happening.
Mike?
Yeah, again, it's difficult to form an opinion on whether or not it's right to close a school without kind of digging into the budget. However, I agree with a few of the people up here who have said that if you're going to close a school and you make that difficult decision, you need to stick by it. To come back, change your mind, I think it breeds a lot of inconfidence in what we're doing here. And the community needs to be confident in the decisions we're making. It affects them, it affects their children, and it is an emotional issue. So the board needs to have the facts on their side. They need to be united, and they need to make an informed decision and stick to it. But if our enrollment does not reflect the amount of buildings we have, and the right thing to do is to close one, then that's what we need to do. And I know that's a difficult conversation to have. But again, it takes leadership, and you need to go to the community, you need to explain why you're doing what you're doing, and you need to stick by your decisions.
Allison, same question?
I believe we should preserve our schools as best we can. Obviously, the budget plays a big factor in that, and so making a decision is sometimes hard when it comes to that. With our declining enrollment, we can also become more creative on ways we can target different markets that actually butt up to our district and how to obtain different kids from different schools when it comes to school of choice. So this is something that we could look into to always increase enrollment, to always preserve our schools going forward.
Larry?
No to closing schools.
Okay.
No. I don't care what the reasons are. No, there's no reason I will not vote to close schools. I did it when I was on the board before. It was a horrible decision. It destroyed the community. The reason I ran for the school board in Lake Shore was because they closed my children's school. And I thought it was a bad idea then. I still do today. And I know what it does to people when the school is closed. There's other ways to make the budgets meet what they have to do to spend the correct amount of money without having to close the schools. I'm passionate about this because my children suffered through it. It was not right for them. That's where I stand on that issue.
Okay. Alicia?
As enrollment numbers continue to decrease, it won't make financial sense necessarily to keep every building open. You can't justify the operating and administrative costs to run them all. Parents have a house, their kids grow up and move out, they adapt and downsize. You have to make changes sometimes. Reducing the amount of buildings would actually allow the students to have new classes that could be offered and have chances for the staff to collaborate with each other. We have to start making choices based on the structure that will give the kids the most educational opportunities rather than based on our emotional attachment to a building. There's a history of going over and over restructuring ideas and nothing actually happening. A do-nothing approach just makes the district continue to lose money, and it robs the kids of some educational opportunities. For example, if they were all in the same building, maybe you could offer some elementary level STEM classes because the teachers would be in the same building and could share those resources. If the kids are spread out at all different schools, you might not have the class sizes to justify it, or it might be too costly, whereas if they're in the same building, you can share those resources. So I think we need to start looking at things in terms of what will give my child the best educational opportunities rather than how do I emotionally feel about a building.
Okay. We're now coming up on our last 4 questions, and we're going to start with Mike. Keeping in mind the current and future enrollment numbers, do you have strong feelings for or against the Central High School and Middle School?
So I just want to point out, we're all talking about declining enrollment numbers, and justifiably so. But I believe that the recent count day, we only lost 7 students. Is that correct? Somewhere in there? So, we'll say it doesn't. Okay, so it doesn't. So hopefully we're leveling off. and we won't have to make any drastic changes to the district. However, the topic of a central high school is one that I believe deserves study. As of 2015, Marine City High School had around 535 students. St. Clair High School had around 805. Keeping two buildings open for 1,340 kids, somewhere in that neighborhood, may not be the most fiscally responsible thing to do. Now, I'm not saying, sitting here today, that that's absolutely the path forward, but it does deserve some thoughtful study. If it makes sense for budgets, it certainly would make sense for programming. Like Alicia was talking about the different things that we could offer, more AP classes, more STEM, things of that nature, which would definitely benefit the children of the district. So I know it's an emotional issue, much like the closure of schools. We have a unique situation in our district because we have St. Clair and we have Marine City, and we don't always see eye to eye. But again, leadership goes a long ways, and if it makes sense to do, then that's a discussion we should have as a community and move forward.
Allison.
I'm actually completely neutral on this subject. I really would have to see the proposal and what the cost advantage would be to having a central high school on this to make an informed decision. But also, we would need to listen to our parents, our teachers, our community to ensure they support building a new high school, or they don't support it. And if I was elected to the board, I would collaborate with the board, and I would stay with what the board decided. I would not go for or against the board. I would ensure we all stayed united on that.
Okay, Larry, your thoughts?
Well, I think you might know how I feel about closing schools already. Are we going to spend $40, $50 million to build a new high school to save $100,000 a year by closing one of the other two schools? Is that what's going to end up happening here? We're going to waste money to build two new buildings so that we can close, one new building so we can close two, and then rip the heart out of two communities, Marine City and St. Clair? I'm not even from this district, and I know how important these two different schools are to the communities. It doesn't take a long time to figure that out. Maybe it makes sense financially, but it doesn't make sense emotionally, and I am emotional about it. It doesn't make sense for the kids either. We're going to bus kids from St. Clair all the way down to Marine City or vice versa. Which school are we going to tear? We're going to tear one down and keep one open? How are we going to work this out? And if you're not going to do that, you're going to spend a ton of money building another building that we could have just spent on programs. It doesn't make any sense to me. That's how I feel about it.
Alicia?
When I was on the district restructuring committee, we did actually look into having a high school on one end and a middle school on the other. And we determined and came to an agreement that that just wasn't feasible. It's too hard for parents to go from one end to the district and back and forth when your kids are close in age for activities. The transportation time, the gas costs, and even things like high schoolers driving that far in the winter. But one thing that we all did get excited about was the possibility of a central high school. Besides saving on costs, it really does open up a lot of educational opportunities for the kids. You can offer new programs, AP classes, electives like STEM, trade courses, because maybe right now there's only 8 kids in Marine City or 8 in St. Clair, and you can't justify having a course. But together you would have enough. You can have additional opportunities for sports. Maybe you could form new teams like lacrosse, or if you do have declining enrollment, you don't have to worry necessarily about not having enough kids to form a team the next year. Together you would be stronger. A new building would be more energy efficient and have up-to-date technology. You would stop spending taxpayers' money to repair an old building year after year. And we would be able to level the playing field and actually compete with Marysville and Anchor Bay when you're looking at school of choice for high schools. And I think by building a new facility, everyone would be starting fresh together by that point in time, because like I said earlier, it's not going to be the high schoolers right now. And it's something you would really have to rally the community together toward, because in 10 to 15 years, it's not going to matter if your child can say they went to school in St. Clair or they went to school in Marine City. What's going to matter is that they can say they had fantastic educational opportunities in East China schools.
Lynn?
Well, I do think this is one of those questions that there is more study needed. I think that I had someone joke with me yesterday who's probably about 10 years older than I am, and since the newspaper already printed the fact that I'm in my 40s, and he said, I remember being in 4th grade and some parents coming and pitching this idea of a central high school to me then. So it's come up over and over and over again throughout the years. And I think it's time to get the kind of board leadership together to study the facts, make a proposal, and talk to the community and move forward. It just can't keep maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't forever. We're just not making progress that way. I think in addition to studying our own, our budget and financial implications and programmatic implications, which I thought was a great point that Alicia made, we should also look to see what other school districts are doing to grow. One that comes to mind to me is Armada. In this time when so many are declining, Armada is really doing a great job with increasing their enrollment. They went to their community, they asked them, what do you value? And their community said, we value career and technical education. And so they built a strong program on that, and they're growing because of it. I don't know if that's the right fit for us, but I think it's worth looking at other strong districts to see what they're doing and how they're positioning themselves for growth.
Okay, our next question goes to Allison. Would you entertain the thought of spending funds on a Schools of Choice campaign in the Blue Water area?
Yes, absolutely, I would entertain spending the funds to increase enrollment in our district, absolutely.
Okay, Larry?
Yes.
Okay.
Currently, there's a gentleman's agreement, nothing in writing, among St. Clair County districts that they're not going to openly compete with each other for students. And if one district violates this, then they're all going to follow suit, and they're all going to be spending money that they really don't have just to compete with each other. If this agreement wasn't in place, I would want to see what the costs were first to advertise. I know printing large ads in newspapers and billboards are very costly, and the young families that you're targeting, they don't really read newspapers anymore. A lot of them are on social media, and you can create a Facebook page or Twitter or Instagram and boost those posts so much cheaper than a printed ad that the younger parents probably aren't even going to look at. So I'd really want to look at that avenue first. But really, at the end of the day, your greatest asset to get school of choice families is your reputation. You need to be a strong school district with a strong board and a great reputation, and that's how you attract students.
Thank you. Lynn?
Yes, school of choice is a reality. 90% of districts in the state of Michigan participate at some level, and so it's reality. That being said, I don't think we need to aggressively pursue students from other districts if we're positioning our district as the premier option for families in this area. And I think if we continue to build on some of the success that we've had in the past, we can do that.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, those are all excellent points. I think that, as Alicia touched on, it has to make fiscal sense to do it. If you're running a program, but you're not bringing in enough kids to actually make a difference, then it doesn't make any sense. But I also think that she makes a good point that if everybody's doing it, who's really benefiting? But as Lynn said, if we continue to be a school district that offers a great education, then naturally I think that we can have students choose that school, choose a school of choice option. But it will take some things, possibly passing a bond and upgrading some facilities. I know Marysville has taken some of our students, but they also just built a brand new high school, passed a bond to do it, and it's benefited their community. So things that we need to look at going forward.
Okay, the next question goes to Larry. He starts it. And do you feel strongly about the continued support of our music, drama, and art curriculum?
Yes, I do. As a choir major, if you would call it such in high school, yeah, I think it's very important. I enjoyed my time in the different arts classes I was in. My children have been in all the different art classes, band and whatnot. I think it's extremely important. I would not believe we should be cutting those back at all. I think that the schools here are giving an excellent education to our children the way it is now. I'm a little perplexed because it sounds to me like some people here think we don't have enough opportunities for our children as it is. I guess maybe I'm behind the times, but I haven't heard too many complaints from the local community members about how rotten their children's education is. I've only heard good things about East China schools. So, you know, when I hear people talking about, well, we could do this or do that, I kind of wonder, aren't we doing enough now? And why aren't we? If we can do these things, why aren't we? Why don't we find the funds to do it? We should be doing that. So, anyway, that's how I feel about the arts.
Okay. Alicia?
Yes, I definitely feel it is important to support the arts in the schools. Not every student is the same. Not everyone is into academics. Not everyone is into sports. Some kids need this creative outlet, and it provides them the opportunity to just really be part of something and take ownership and be part of a team. I was not athletic at all in high school, and I was in marching band for 4 years, and that was my opportunity to work with others and be part of something. So I definitely support the arts.
Okay, Lynn?
I definitely also support the arts. I think it's a necessary, arts education is necessary for our students, and I also think it's sought after by families. I think some of the productions put on by both high schools are a real source of pride in this community, and is one of the things that helps build community awareness of what we're doing in our schools. So I'm very supportive.
Mr. Mullane?
Yeah, first of all, I just wanted to say that I don't think anybody thinks that the educational opportunities here are bad, but we always strive to be better. But also, when it comes to the arts, we have phenomenal band programs here, drama over at the PAC. I mean, our students put on, amazing plays. I don't know if everybody's gone out and seen them, but you definitely should. And we need to encourage that. I, on the other hand, have zero musical talent. I can't act. And I did try to play sports, not all that athletic either. But it is essential. It is part of a well-rounded education, and students that enjoy that should be encouraged to do it, and our district should encourage it as well.
Allison, go ahead.
Yes, I absolutely support music, drama, and art. With children who have a well-rounded education, definitely overall in the end benefit from this.
Okay. Our final question of the evening will begin with Alicia. Is that right? Yes. Are you involved in a political or educational lobby group that might influence your decision-making?
No, everything I've been doing has just been volunteering at the school district level.
Okay. Lynn?
No.
Mike?
No?
No, I'm not a part of any.
Okay. Ann?
I'm not a member of a political party. I don't work for any governmental agency. I'm not endorsed by any union group. I will only do things that are good for the students of this community.
Okay.
That's the only place I'm going to be coming from, so.
As we began, we started with Lynn. Why don't we wrap up and go through one more time and give us just a quick 30-second or 60-second wrap-up of why you want to run for the board.
Okay, well, I want to run for school board because I believe I've got some qualities that will be of benefit to the district and to the students in the district. I'm actually thrilled that we have 5 great candidates this year, all wanting to put themselves out there and work hard for our district. And I'm just happy to have the opportunity to get to know them and to get to know so many of the people in our district as the campaign process has rolled out. It's made me even more dedicated to our schools than I was even before.
Mr. Mullane.
Thanks again to everybody for coming out, to everyone up here for coming and giving their ideas on the district. I think it's an important conversation. Again, I'm running for the board because I want to put the knowledge and experience I've gained on my day job to work for our community. I think that we have an excellent school district, and as board members, we can work together to make it even better.
Allison?
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. I think there are a lot of great ideas across the board, so anybody that does get elected in the 2 seats, I think we will have an amazing board going forward. My personal reason that I'm running for the board is to continue to invest in my children and their education and what is really best for the community of East China School District.
Larry?
I think I give a different perspective in that I've got 6 high school graduates, 4 college graduates as children, and I know what it took to get those children to where they were. all my children have jobs, they all work for a living. I think that's an important thing for our children to be able to do when they graduate high school. I think I can add a lot to the conversation, and I think I would be an asset to the school board and the district. Thank you.
I'm passionate about volunteering in the community and about our school district in general, and I really just want to see it for the long haul be the best district it possibly can be. I want all the kids in the district, no matter where you live, to have the best education possible. And I believe that if you want something to happen, you need to step up and make it happen and not wait for other people to do it. So that's why I threw my hat in the ring. I really want to actively be out there and make a difference. And I think that together, this whole community working together, we can really achieve a lot.
Well, as Alicia just said, you have to step up and do something and act. And you can do that on November the 8th when you either vote that day or you vote absentee ahead of time. But make sure when you look at your ballot that you finish with everything on the front side, which is national and state. Turn it over on the back and get to the county and local issues. At the top of the side here is the community college trustees. Then the 5 people that you just saw are in this little area here. You can go ahead and vote for 2 of them, and we'll have a great board. Then finally, the last item on the ballot this year, of course, is the East China School District operating millage proposal, which is so important for the district that it pass. This has been Paul Dingeman along with Kenny Young running the cameras for CTV, thanking you for tuning in. This program will air about 40 times between today, the 19th of October, when it was recorded, until the election day, and it'll be on Thursdays and Fridays on Channel 6 in Marine City and in St. Clair at 2, 6, and 10 a.m. and p.m. So if you have neighbors or friends that want to watch it, they can have many, many opportunities to watch it. It'll also be at www.watchctv.org for your access on the web. Till next time, I'm Paul Dingeman. Thanks very much for tuning in. How about some applause?